It's the brown day. Some people call it hump day. I call it Wednesday. That means it's time for Status Coup News. Once again, I am your host, Kim Brown. You can catch me here Wednesdays, everybody. Come on in here. You know we are getting ready to get this news broadcast on and popping. We have some really good stories on deck for you today. Really quick, let me just remind everybody to kindly, politely, sincerely, and do it with some feeling, y'all. Some some zhuzh. Give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to Status Coup News, please take a moment to do so. And if you want to take it a step further, you can go ahead and become a member of the channel, because you got to support independent left media outlets such as Status Coup, such as Black Power Media, and such as my channel, Burn It Down with Kim Brown. I am the host of said platform, and you can catch me there Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. in the Eastern time. Well, anyway, got a good show on store for you, on store, in store, on store, under the store, all around the store, in store for you today. In case you had missed it somehow, Donald Trump has made his announcement that he indeed will be running for a third time for president. Aren't you excited? Are you horrified? Are you excited? Are you not surprised? Are you shocked? Well, nobody should be shocked at this point. And the people, I think, who have really shown the most enthusiasm to Donald Trump's announcement that he will be again seeking the White House has got to be cable news, right? Has got to be the cable news folks, because they're like, yes, our meal ticket is back, y'all. And lest we not forget, it was the media, it was cable news, it was mainstream media outlets that gave us Trump to begin with, right? They helped to create, pardon me, let me not say helped. How silly of me. They created his political platform. They enabled his credibility and legitimacy as a political voice. Don't you forget that both CNN, MSNBC, well, we know Fox. I don't even count Fox when we talk about cable news, but the CNN and MSNBC used to routinely stop their broadcasts in the middle to go directly to Trump live with his announcement about Obama's birth certificate and all kinds of crazy shit. So, of course, the mainstream media is most excited about Donald Trump. Now, this is a problem for us. This is a problem for us, because given the fact that the media helped to elevate Trump to a legitimate, credible political voice, at least to some, not to people that watch this channel, not to most people, but to enough people who very clearly voted for him for president, not once but twice, and who still deny the fact that he even lost the 2020 election. There's a lot of still ongoing momentum and support for Donald Trump to run for president. I don't think he named a running mate, but I don't really think that matters. I do not really think that matters at this point. But what I am seeing, especially from mainstream media outlets, and again, and I'm going to focus less today about Trump himself and more so about the people that brought us Trump. Okay, because Trump did not appear out of nowhere. No, because he is a wealthy white real estate mogul, or at least was at some point during his long time in the spotlight. The media just gave him de facto legitimacy. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like in the Constitution, whereas the first people who had the only legitimate right to vote were white male landowners, right? And so the media enables the same folks, right? I mean, we hear a lot about Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, and they have these wonderful ideas about how to save the planet. Elon Musk is another one. A person who is given this legitimacy completely unearned simply because of their race, gender, and social status. Trump was the prototype for that, or at least the modern day prototype for that. So they used to let Trump on Meet the Press. They used to let Trump hold press conferences where CNN and MSNBC again would stop their live coverage and go directly to Trump. After Tuesday's election results, where a lot of the Trump-backed candidates lost, certain people, Chuck Todd, certain people went on their respective television shows and completely focused, zeroed in on the potential Trump announcement, which again happened yesterday. But I want us to go to Sunday's Meet the Press show, everybody. because the Tuesday election said a lot of things to me. And it didn't say that America was tired of not my takeaway from the election results. It didn't say that Trump is not still a force out here to be reckoned with, and despite the fact that most of his backed candidates lost. No, the reason why the Democrats lost the House, and let's be clear, I think that's official. Yes, did that come down today that the Democrats have officially lost the House? They have the Republicans and the GOP do hold a very narrow margin, and the Senate is pretty much deadlocked 50-50 or whatever the outcome of the Georgia runoff will be. I think it'll be 51-50. Okay, not a lot of wiggle room here for Joe Biden to get anything done legislatively, but I guess he's used to that. But anyway, hold on, circling back to Chuck Todd, because we got to dunk on Chuck Todd here for a second. Instead of focusing on the fact that, in my opinion, abortion was a driving issue that caused the Republicans to not win as many seats as they expected, because after the Supreme Court ruling in Dobbs, half of the country, or at least people that live in 26 states of the country and who have the ability to get pregnant, they had their bodily autonomy stripped, their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Yeah, that shit went away. And I still stick to my statement that a lot of conservative women and men probably went into the ballot box, and if they lived in a state where abortion was potentially on the ballot, in a handful of different states that were trying to do constitutional amendments, everything related to abortion went in the favor of abortion access and abortion rights, even if these things happen in abortion restrictive states such as Kentucky and Montana. But regardless, to me, abortion is what was the driving thing. And some of the polling that Meet the Press features here in a second, I'm going to show you, it actually validates that. So, but before we get into the nuts and bolts, I just want to show you guys a very quick example of the ways that the mainstream media is so giddy, just ecstatic at the possibility of having to cover again another Trump campaign. Okay. And Chuck Todd had Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy on his show. And I could have easily pulled the entire interview because it was a mess of nothing. It was a bunch of bad questions with no answers and expectedly no good follow-up from the Meet the Press moderator. But I want you guys to count, and I want to see it in the chat because I know y'all can count. I want y'all to count how many questions Chuck Todd managed to ask Senator Cassidy about Donald Trump. Are you got? And if it's after 5 where you are, we could turn this into a quick drinking game. So run and go get your bottles. run and go get your shots, or get your wine glass, or if you don't drink, go get your cannabis accoutrements and take a hit every time you hear Chuck Todd ask a question about Donald Trump. Let's take a look.
It sounds like you just blame Donald Trump for the Senate, at least. Is that fair? It's interesting. You have not been shy about your criticism of Donald Trump. You voted to convict him after January 6th. When you look at your vote and you look at the votes of some of your colleagues that we know were thinking about it but decided not to, in hindsight, how big of a mistake was it not to convict Trump when you had the chance? I guess I ask this, if this is the result of these elections, but the Republican Party still has sort of the same leadership at RNC, Ronna McDaniel, Kevin McCarthy of House Republicans, Mitch McConnell of Senate Republicans, and of course Donald Trump is sort of the leader out there. If there's no change there, do you think that's a problem for Republicans going forward? I understand that's where you should go. How do you get the party there? Because you know how hard it is. You know the base of this party still loves Donald Trump. Or do you think that this midterm could break that spell? Look, Donald Trump's announcing his candidacy for president on Tuesday, whether anybody wants him to or not. And we understand people have tried to get him to postpone this decision. He's not going to do that. Are you at all concerned that his just mere presence is just going to make it that much harder for Republicans to recover? I understand that, and I know where you're trying to head here, but Donald Trump doesn't want to head in the direction you want to head. How do you stop that direction? What do? Do you rally around? Is it time to rally around Ron DeSantis now? Can you imagine having to support Donald Trump again if he's the nominee of your party? And if that candidate's Donald Trump, do you plan on supporting that candidate?
Oh, my God. You would think that there would be better questions to ask besides Donald Trump. And you heard Chuck Todd there spend the majority of the interview he had with the Republican senator asking him specifically about Trump. Now, the reason I said I could have included the entire interview, because conversely, Bill Cassidy wasn't hitting on shit, okay? He wasn't talking about shit. He mentioned only two issues that he personally has worked on in the Senate that he thinks that the Republicans need to brag about. And one of them was the surprise medical billing, some legislation that he worked on that he says helped to stave off surprise bills for 11 million Americans. Doesn't sound like a lot of people. Sounds good, but it sounds like teeny tiny, teeny tiny progress. And he also bragged about the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which of course we know was spearheaded by Democrats and greatly pruned back by both the GOP and the Democrats in order to get a semblance of it passed. And Cassidy kept replying that, you know, the party of the Republicans, we need to talk about our values and our plans and our policies. But he named he named no values, no policies, no principles. And Chuck Todd, being the very feckless, inadequate, borderline incompetent. Is that safe to say, chat? Would y'all say Chuck Todd's kind of incompetent? I would, because he sits in that big chair and he asks the most mundane questions, and it's all centered around personality. It's never centered around policies. Or if it is, it's because that the mainstream media has been forced to speak about policies in a substantive way by either independent media outlets like this or by the public at large, i.e. people taken to the streets and forcing the conversation. But if left up to their own devices, the mainstream media outlets are just going to plug this as Trump, the maverick. Now, we know that they don't give him quote unquote favorable coverage, but they don't have to give him favorable coverage. If they're giving him any coverage at all, it's going to be favorable, right? How did Trump manage to barely spend anything during his inaugural presidential campaign? He ran on his own money, but he didn't hardly spend no money. You know why? Well, y'all know why. Because the mainstream was giving him free airtime to the tunes of probably many millions of dollars. Airtime that he literally could not buy was given to him. So they platformed Trump. They unleashed this demon upon the rest of us. And the simple-minded among the rest of us, I'm speaking about conservatives, here, they just ate it up. And they were glad to. And the press also ate it up because, you know, Trump is a revenue generator, period, point blank. And that is why CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of them are so excited that he is returning to the race. Now, which is going to be funny to me about this is the framing from other outlets is that Fox and Rupert Murdoch owned media have already dumped Trump. Well, fret not, because Chuck Todd, MSNBC, and CNN will be there to elevate him once again. Even if conservative media outlets are dialing back their coverage about Donald Trump, the mainstream, the other ones will not. And we will hear as much about Trump as we ever did. And the setup between the showdown, Trump versus DeSantis, is a storyline that the media is going to hammer upon our brains for the next 18 months and some change. But let's get back quick. Oh, wait. Actually, and to prove my point, going back to what I said about what was the issue that really drove voters, that really drove these midterms, I say it was abortion. And Chuck Todd's NBC News actually backed up that point. And I want to play this clip. And mind you, let me just remind you, there was not a question, not one, asked of Bill Cassidy. Chuck Todd had him on. This clip that we're about to see was when Elizabeth Warren was being interviewed by Chuck Todd, and he didn't ask nobody question one about abortion and the potential factor that it was in driving these election results. So let's take a look at that.
In the exit poll, we asked, which party do you trust more on 5 sets of issues? And the Republicans were more trusted on foreign policy, crime, inflation, and immigration. The only issue they weren't trusted more on was on the issue of abortion.
What? So the answer was right there. And Chuck Todd looked over there. He looked over there. He looked up. He looked down. Could not see the answer that was right there in front of his face. And that's funny to me. The fact that we live in a new country now, where at the beginning of 2022, women everywhere had access, at least in principle, to abortion services, and now women in a lot of states do not. That is a liberty issue. That is also an economic issue. If women are forced, or pregnant people are forced to bear children that they either don't want or they can't care for, or God forbid, they find themselves in a pregnancy that is potentially complicated and life-threatening, they can't even get the care that they deserve. You're taking pregnant people out the workforce here, okay? So this easily should have been an issue that Democrats should have framed as an economic issue, that Chuck Todd, as I guess, credible, semi-credible, an employed journalist, Chuck Todd, as an employed journalist, should have at least asked the question, hey, this notion about liberty and freedom, shit that Republicans beat their chest about every time there's a camera in their face, how come they don't look at abortion as the same as that, as the same as freedom and liberty and all the issues that fall under that umbrella, as gun ownership, right? You have the freedom to own guns. Well, women don't have the freedom to take care of their bodies as they see fit. And I've not really heard, and I don't watch a lot of mainstream media, so let me not say that I've not heard too many, because I definitely am. Meet the Press is the only shit that I really watch on Sundays on purpose, because I cannot I cannot consume cable news. Sorry, I just have too much respect for myself, and my mental health is very important to me, and I don't like just hollering at the television for hours on end. So I'm not sure if it has been framed that way, if any mainstream journalist did frame it that way, regarding the issue of abortion and the ways that, in my opinion, it influenced the outcome of this election. And speaking of, the Democrats didn't get shellacked as much as they thought they would. And people turned out and sent Biden, the Biden administration, sent them potentially a margin that they can work with in Congress, I guess, even though that's going to be a clusterfuck. But regarding the issue of abortion, Joe Biden has already said, hey, don't expect too much. don't expect too much from us on Capitol Hill in DC on the issue of abortion. Let's take a look at that.
What should Americans expect from Congress as it relates to abortion rights after the midterms?
I don't think they can expect much of anything other than we're going to maintain our positions. I'm not going to get into more questions. I shouldn't even answer your question.
Mr. President,
No, I don't think that.
question from an Indonesian.
I don't think there's enough votes to codify unless something happens unusual in the House. I think we're going to get very close in the House, but I think it's going to be very close, but I don't think we're going to do it.
Why do Democrats constantly give their voters buyer's remorse? Not to say that there was a better option. We know the Republicans are not an option. But these Democrats, they don't seem to understand what it means to use power when it's literally at their fingers. If the Democrats cannot codify federally into law abortion, I'm sorry, what? Then what the fuck were y'all doing for these previous 2 years? What y'all been doing? I understand COVID was a thing. I also understand Joe Biden still owes me $600 from that deficient stimulus package. But we've had that conversation before. What is the point? What is the point? Abortion went away under Joe Biden. Voting rights went away, or at least the Voting Rights Act was gutted under Barack Obama, both via Supreme Court decisions. But it's like, God damn, like if people keep showing up, registering and showing up, big up Generation Z. Gen Z came out and Gen Z is like, the fuck? What is this? What is going on? Joe Biden, I'm not exactly sure what he can deliver for his constituents or us, for the people as a whole, for the next 2 years. And what is he going to run on in 2024? Oh, You got to vote for us because we got to try to codify Roe. Well, people voted in 2022. Are you going to codify Roe? No. He just told us no. It's just amazing to me how these politicians will play in your face. And had the Democrats lost more significantly, at least lost more seats more significantly, I assure you, the rest of us would have been blamed. It would not have been their fault for being inadequate and not going far enough. And a lot of exit polls, particularly from voters under the age of 35, voters 18 to 35, overwhelmingly voted Democrat. They also indicated that they really wanted Democrats to go further to the left. They want them to do more lefty shit. And it seems as though the attempts at progressive policies, I can't even call them left policies, but the attempts at progressive policies just keep getting kneecapped under the Biden administration. The student loan debacle, where, tens of millions of people have already filled out their applications for these student loans, and here comes a judge stymieing those attempts. And the Biden administration claims they're going to fight it, but I have a feeling they're just going to shrug and be like, oh, well, we tried. Vote for Biden-Harris 2024 if y'all don't get the entire fuck out my face. Really quick, everybody. The other thing that I wanted to touch on has to do relating to all this Trump announcement, etc. So let's have a funny. Can we have a little funny laugh here real quick? So at the announcement last night in Mar-a-Lago, Trump droned on for over an hour. But apparently the mood within Mar-a-Lago wasn't as electric as advertised. And in fact, Trump's security had to prevent people from leaving because they wanted to make sure that the numbers inside of the event looked as good as possible. Let's check this clip from Mediaite to get the deets. If we don't have it, Colin.
Give me just 1 second and point it up now.
Take your time. Take your time. I don't even know who was talking on Mediaite again because I do not watch the CNNs.
Energy. I actually saw people trying to leave and people leaving early even before he was done. He's still speaking now. And then they, I think perhaps a little concerned that the hall would empty out too much. They actually started preventing people from leaving. So now they're no longer allowing people to leave.
Help is on the way. Joe Biden has abolished America's borders. We are going to restore and secure America's borders just like we had them before, best ever. We built the wall, and now we will add to it. Now we built the wall.
Yep. So that's what it looked like. Apparently inside of Mar-a-Lago. I also read some stuff online, and I wasn't able to verify it. But apparently the Blacks for Trump wasn't allowed in, and I don't know if that's true or not. Diamond and Silk was in there though, so that's some Blacks for Trump. So there you go. So Trump is in it to win it. It is going to be interesting to see. And I know I said I'm kind of contradicting myself here. I know that I said that the mainstream media is going to set up this battle royale between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, but that's really what it's going to be. I'm sure other people are going to jump in the race. Some people talk about Pence. Come on now. But a lot of the conservatives weren't even offended at the January 6th chant of hang Mike Pence. I too was not offended, but I'm saying I'm Mike Pence is not in my party. So I mean, there's that. So Pence, who else they're talking about? Nikki Haley, Pompeo, and a couple other Nimrods potentially could run. But it is going to be Trump versus the fascist, the fascist DeSantis. And that's going to be interesting. What's also to me going to be interesting is when these Republican debates eventually do come up in 2023, 2024, Trump is going to be there talking about he can probably end the war in Ukraine. And damn it, is he wrong? Is he wrong? Trump could probably negotiate a peace in Ukraine. As much as nobody really wants to hear that, I think that is quite possible. And I think that's probably an issue that he is going to use to stand apart between his other Republican challengers and even potentially another general showdown between he and Joe Biden. And if he starts talking that shit, trust me, there's no way Donald Trump gets my vote, but neither does Joe Biden. But I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen what he has to say, because Ukraine has gotten many billions of dollars. And you know who has not gotten the billions? Jackson, Mississippi, Flint, Michigan, Baltimore, Maryland. I mean, there's a lot of places in America where that Ukrainian money could be very well spent, and yet it's going to Boeing, BAE, Raytheon. It's going to all the usual suspects. And I think Trump, even though he supports, in principle, funding the military to the hilt, I think that is potentially an issue that he could run on and people will actually give him a listen. So just be watching this, y'all. I mean, stranger things have happened. Trump has already been elected once. I can't say that he will not be elected again. But I want us to pop up something that a Democratic congressperson has started circulating as a means to potentially keep Trump out of office. Okay. And the gentleman, he has a really divine Italian name that I need to look at it again so I know how to pronounce it. But he's a Democratic congressperson from Rhode Island. Is it Cicilline? Mr. Cicilline? That sounds about right. Let's go with that. So he has started circulating, or at least as reported by at least two journalists I saw online, circulating a letter to his Democratic colleagues to try to encourage them to support legislation that would, in effect, bar Trump federally from having him seek office again. And it's called, if we could pop up that tweet, they're calling those, I think was it from Manu Raju? Yep, indeeder. So there we go. So as Trump announces his bid, Democratic Representative David Cicilline is circulating legislation to bar Donald Trump from holding elected office again, citing the 14th Amendment that bans insurrectionists. Letter sent to colleagues. And in part, let me read some of this letter here. Because to me, if you really want to keep Trump out of office, this is the way to do it. I mean, you could sit and pray and hope for indictments. Indictments require trials and potential convictions and potential acquittals. So if people are trying to use the law to keep a rich white man out of office, good luck with that. But if you're trying to use the law, then use the fucking law. Here we go with the Constitution. So the deadline for this, for the originals, is going to be tomorrow, Thursday, at November 17th at noon. But anyway, it's called the Stop Donald Trump from Holding Federal Office Again, is the letter that he sent. And he is urging his colleagues to use Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which, as you saw in that tweet, outlines that people who are convicted of insurrection and sedition can never again hold elected office. And it says, under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, it says, quote, no person shall hold any office, civil or military, under the United States, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or to the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, rebellion against the same or given of comfort, to the enemies thereof, said the Constitution. And this has already been used once, apparently in the past 100 years. And it happened recently. It happened in New Mexico with a county commissioner there in New Mexico who was removed from office by a federal judge because they were convicted of participating in the January 6th insurrection. And for Representative Cicilline, I think this is a brilliant idea. And I do not understand why it is 2022 and the Democrats have just gotten this bright idea. But I wanted to take a look at CNN. And I told y'all I don't watch CNN, so I'm going to call the anchor what's her name, because I don't know her name. So we're going to hear from what's her name from CNN. Give us the details about the ways in which this elected official from New Mexico was removed from office under this statute, under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. And this person can no longer ever hold elected office in the United States. Let's take a look.
For the first time in more than 100 years, I'll put it another way, in more than a century, An official in the United States has been barred from holding office and barred under the Constitution's ban on insurrectionists. This is in New Mexico, where a judge is ordering the founder of the Cowboys for Trump, Couy Griffin, to be removed from his position as county commissioner. The reason? Griffin's been convicted of participating in the January 6th riot. The judge writing, quote, Mr. Griffin engaged in that insurrection. The court therefore concludes that effective January 6, 2021, Mr. Griffin became disqualified under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment from serving. Now, according to the Department of Justice, Griffin was there. He was on the Capitol steps, well within the restricted area on January 6th when he made this video.
The people are showing that they've had enough. People are ready for fair and legal elections, or this is what you're going to get. You're going to get more of it.
This is what you're going to get, and you're going to get more of it. This is, though, a history-making decision by this judge. I mean, the last time a public official was removed based on this clause of the 14th Amendment was in 1869. Now, that is according to the liberal watchdog group, which took part in the lawsuit. Now, Griffin tells Vice News, quote, all they're doing with me is laying the groundwork to do this with other people, including President Trump.
Duh. Duh. Of course they should do this with Trump. Why is it we're just hearing about this? You know, that story was published 2 months ago. But even still, how is it 2022? Again, has this been broached previously to y'all's awareness? Has anybody brought this up? Or everybody just wanted to have impeachments, which, you know, legitimate, I suppose, but it didn't do anything to dim the bulb or the brightness of Trump's shine to his base. It didn't preclude him from ever seeking elected office again. And what was the other shit? Oh, yeah, the January 6th hearings. Yes, all very nice. I love to see the footage of, as I've told y'all before, I enjoyed January 6th quite a bit. It was my enemies beating the shit out of each other. I was here for it. But even watching the January 6th commission and all that shit, that didn't preclude Trump from seeking office again. And the thing is, Trump has a good chance of winning. I don't give a damn what Fox News out here saying, okay? There is enough white nationalists, overt or not, who agree with the stuff that Trump says. They agree with his policies, even though his policies do not benefit them individually, right? But they don't care. They do not care. The idea of the xenophobia that Trump brings against Asians, against people trying to cross the southern border, not just Hispanics, but there's a lot of Haitians, a lot of Black folks also trying to cross that southern border as well. And the racism and the abject indifference to human life that Trump showed under Title 42, which I know, by the way, the Biden administration upheld like some dickheads. But, you know, just goes to show you, you know, two heads of the same beast for a majority of the issues. But nonetheless, I don't understand why this has not been the path to pursue for congressional Democrats. Why did it take this example of this county commissioner in New Mexico for this to be brought up? So I'm interested to see what the House Democratic Caucus is going to do in response to the representative from Rhode Island who has proposed this. And again, the party of ideas, damn, y'all operating, the Democrats, that is, y'all operating on stoner time, man. I mean, as a stoner, yes, it does sometimes take me extended, a little bit of a duration to figure out the bright idea, but god damn, man, this is what we sent y'all to Congress to go do. If you want to keep Trump out, I think this is the way to do it. But the Democrats are not smart, not organized, and not united. So who knows? We'll see how that one goes. Take a moment, if you could, y'all. Hit the like button on the video. Give the video a like and a share. Subscribe to the channel and become a member, if you could, of Status Coup News. Amazing stories here being covered, as always. I want to go back and look at the story that I think got published earlier today regarding the missile that landed in Poland. Oh, did you see the Associated Press was trying to drag us into World War III with their errant reporting? Funny thing. Funny how that works, isn't it? They had to walk that back, funny enough. But anyway, go back and look at the video about that coverage on Status Coup was published earlier today. And these are the kinds of stories that you can find here on this platform, on this channel, giving you the perspective that the mainstream media is just willfully overlooking, willfully overlooking. Anyway, so there's that. The last story I wanted to bring you guys has to do with a viral clip that I saw going around that has millions of views on Twitter. And I want you guys to understand this thing about this clip. The ways in which racism is baked into literally every single institution in America is why the name of my channel is called Burn It Down. The reason it's called Burn It Down is not because it's incendiary rhetoric. No, I do not believe that America in its current form is redeemable at all. I can't point to not one institution of this country that I think, this institution is doing a good job of not being racist. There's not one. Let's see, policing, legislation, governance, and the education system, which is where this particular story drops us off at. So last week in Pflugerville, Texas, or is it Pflugerville? Colin, help me out.
Pflugerville.
Thank you, Colin. Pflugerville, which sounds like it should be in Ohio and not in Texas, but that's another separate conversation. So Pflugerville, the school district there in Pflugerville, had a bit of a scandal on its hands. Why did it have a scandal on its hands? Well, one of its students captured one of its teachers giving a very interesting take about race and racism and ethno-nationalism. What? So the clip that we're about to see, we're going to start midway. It's a white male teacher in front of a group of Black students, and he's very openly telling them that he thinks that white people are the superior race. Okay? So that's the setup. So let's take a look at this clip.
Deep down in my heart, I'm ethnocentric, which means I think my race is the superior one.
Oh, I didn't say it.
Wait, no, let me finish. Let me finish.
So, white is better than all.
No, let me finish. Let me
Go
finish.
ahead.
I think everybody thinks that. They're just not honest about
Hey,
it.
I'm not racist though. I like all types of colors.
Did I say I don't like people?
People only think that.
Wait, so you said you are what? You are racist?
You saying you're like,
I
you're
think
racist?
everybody's a racist at that level.
No, you said you are racist.
I did. Yeah, I'm trying to be honest.
Yes, I'm racist.
No, I'm not saying it again. I've said it enough.
So you're racist.
I slightly told you to stop speaking.
Put your phone up.
I respected you.
I'm
I
putting
actually
your phone up.
respected you for a while, but like
I'm putting your
now,
phone up.
I don't even got no more respect for you.
Put it up.
Yeah, for real. I don't think I got respect for him no more, bro.
You know, you should have more respect.
So we've talked about racism, haven't we? Haven't we, friends? We've talked about racism a little bit here. And it's so funny to me is that specifically racist white Americans, right? Because they think that they don't come out and say the N-word with hard R on the end, or because they might see a Black person walking on the street and they don't cross the street, right? They do seem to think that these things, that is what makes one racist. Their overt racism, them overtly calling Black people the N-word, hard R, right? Or if they want to be cute about it, trying to use the GGA, and it's like you're not making it better. you should not be saying this word. Period. Point blank. Regardless, but that is a very disturbing video, even though it comes across very benign and even somewhat polite in tone. Okay, so let me fill you in on some of the details there. So that happened at an area middle school. And the teacher there is no longer employed at the Pflugerville Integrated School District. Now, according to KVUE News in the Austin area, they did not say whether or not this teacher had actually been fired. It just says that this person is no longer employed. And in fact, the teacher was never named, at least not in reports that I saw. Perhaps you all may have seen different things. So It's not clear whether or not this teacher resigned or quit or was fired. Though my take is, had he been fired, I think that's something that the school district probably would have announced, right? But let this be a little bit of a window into the very casual racism that Black children experience on all levels. And let's be clear, these kids are middle school students, okay? So let's not delude ourselves into thinking that racism is something that is only reserved for Black adults, okay? No. Black children experience racism. Truly, they can experience it in utero, but they absolutely experience it throughout childhood. And to me, for this teacher to very casually get up there and tell these children that he is an ethnocentrist and that he believes that the white race is superior, and that does not make him racist. Let's be clear. There's also a fundamental misunderstanding about what racism is and what racism isn't. And one of the things he did say was actually accurate, but then he went way, way inaccurate. So he said that most people believe that their group is the best, right? And I don't dispute that at all. And Colin so very accurately characterized it as tribalism in our conversation before we went live. And yeah, everybody roots for their team, right? I mean, shit. That's how Black people got fooled by fucking Obama. We was rooting for the Black team. God damn. And lesson learned, we do not root for everybody Black. Let's be clear. So there's that. But while most groups and most people within most groups hold some sort of prejudices, potentially, and they can be small. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on the white folks, but I mean, that's just the first thing that popped into my head. Like the stereotype that white folks smell like wet dogs. Like, I mean, that's mean, right? And it's not based on anything, but it's a prejudice. Yes. Now the difference is, if Black people could exclude white people from spaces, that they have dominance in because, quote unquote, they allegedly smell like dogs, that's racism. Okay. When you are able to activate power behind your prejudice, that's racism. Okay. Most non-white people do not have the ability to be racist. They have the ability to be prejudiced. They can be discriminatory, but white, male, straight, Christian are the dominant groups, even if not dominant in numbers anymore in this country. They are dominant in political power, okay? And everybody associated with those groups, white women, white children, they also assume that same sort of power. So when this man gets up there and says, I think everybody is racist, he could be slightly correct that everybody perhaps has prejudices against other groups, spoken or unspoken. But really, the only ones with the power to activate racism are white people. There is no such thing as reverse racism. There isn't. Let's be very clear about that, because other groups lack the power to actually disenfranchise white folks, right? This is why a lot of the stuff surrounding Trump, surrounding the fascist, it's just a bunch of white grievance, because they feel as though any concession of the tiniest bit of power in the name of equality, or like these dickheads like to call it woke, any acquiescence to full inclusivity of all people and all groups diminishes white power, right? And that is where they're coming from. That is racist. And the ways in which this teacher, and I'm just thinking, like, when I watched that clip, what came to mind was the school to prison pipeline, right? Because that teacher could have very easily activated his racism against those students in a myriad of ways. And not to say that he hasn't done it in the past or with previous classes. I don't even know how long the person's been teaching. We don't know how long this person has been shaping the minds of youths holding these very racist views. And that teacher is also not alone. But how many times has he recommended non-white students for disciplinary action for reasons or for no good reason? How many times has he had the ability to influence police engagement with non-white folks, right? That is racist. That is power. That is power. And for these Black children to be subjected to that, to be exposed to that, and I want to actually credit the fucking teacher, the fucking racist, for being honest, because it's an honesty that we don't usually get. And I think that's another reason, circling back to Trump, if I could for a moment, why Trump resonated so much with so much of racist white America, because he was saying the quiet shit out loud. You know what I mean? He was saying the quiet shit out loud. White America hasn't heard that kind of rhetoric since George Wallace, since Strom Thurmond. They was excited. They said, oh, hey, wait a second. He talking like Grandpa. That's the shit Grandpa be on. Yeah, come on. Anyway. I want you all to just always consider, it doesn't even matter what group you're in. I just need y'all to know that there is not one single institution in this country that is absolved from racism. Education has not transcended racism. The healthcare system has not transcended racism. Our political system has not transcended racism. Our system of law enforcement and incarceration absolutely has not transcended racism. In fact, all of these institutions still work to very much reinforce this. Because, to be clear, the only reason that teacher is out of a job, and again, not clear on whether or not he was able to resign or whether or not he was fired, but the only reason that person is out of a job today is because there was a camera rolling, okay? That's it. That person likely has openly held those views, known either in his community, potentially to other teachers in the building. Again, he didn't look like no spring chicken. I'm sure he's been teaching for a long time, and I'm sure this admission of racism was not the first time he did so. It was just the first time that it was exposed to enough people that it was enough to anger people to at least complain, to at least complain about it. But this is typical. This is regular. And it is a shame. It is a shame that kids in this country still have to experience this kind of shit, regardless of what setting they're in. You would think school would be a safe place for kids, aside from the overt threats of violence and mass shootings, in addition to the kids still are facing racism in their learning institutions. So there's that. Before I go, I wanted to extend, what time is it? Oh yeah, fuck it, it's time to go. Before I go, I wanted to extend congratulations to Jordan and his partner on the birth of their baby. Hey, baby. So shout out to the Cheritons and to the little baby Cheriton. So welcome to the planet, little one. Your parents are out here fighting to make the planet a better place for you. And I think that we all need to do that for all the kids. Because the kids are going to need our help, everybody. Shit's getting crazy. So congratulations to Jordan and to Jordan's wife for the hard work that I'm sure that she put in. I'm sure Jordan was there rooting her on, but you know, bearing children is not easy work. So welcome to the baby, and congratulations to the very proud parents. I will see you guys back here on Wednesday. So you can catch me Wednesdays, 5 p.m. here on Status Coup. You can catch me on my channel, Burn It Down with Kim Brown, Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. Please take a moment to go over and subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my stuff. We do the thing. I want to send thanks again going to Colin and to Jordan for the opportunity to come over here and talk to the people them. So I will check you guys next week.